Donna Druchunas, and in this video I'm going to talk about lace knitting and what happens when you have a decrease next to a marker where the repeat is. So this is a chart from my tuna shawl, and this whole big thing is how I charted it for the design, from the border up through this main repeat. This red box here, tall red box, that's what was on the chart for the repeat, and that's how I knit it. And you can see these yellow stitches here. They are decreases that come right next to that red line, and if you put a marker between your repeats, you're going to have a marker in each of those places, so you're going to have to move the marker. Now I'm going to show you later at the end of this video how to move the markers, but before I do that I just want to show you something, if you don't like moving markers, that you can do. So I picked this as the repeat because this is a cowl with a very similar design. In fact, it's called a tuna, same name as the, I have 3 patterns with this name. One is a bulky cowl, one is a lighter weight cowl, and one is a shawl. But when you look at the pattern, it's kind of like a flower. This is different than the shawl, but this part's the same. And so it's kind of like leaves and a flower. And so that's what was the repeat to me, was actually what the motif is. But on the chart, the repeat box can go anywhere. So this is a 14 stitch repeat. I put it around what looked like the pattern to me, the motif. But you can move the box anywhere. For example, I could have moved the box for the first 22 rows over here, so it wasn't next to all these double decreases. There's still a couple spots where a decrease is next to the outline, and I'd have to still move those markers, but it wouldn't be the same on every decrease row, on every lace row. So that's one place I could have made a different chart or put the repeat in a different place. Then as we go up the chart, we don't have that border part anymore, but we have this flower repeat, and it moves to kind of be offset. So in chart rows 23 to 40, the box was here because I just went straight up from the bottom. I could have changed the repeat to this, so there would have been no markers to move, which if you look up to the top part is the same as the repeat here. It's just offset. So you can pick almost any 14 stitches to move the box to when you're making up a repeat as a designer, or you can draw a new line on the chart yourself as a knitter. Just be careful when you're knitting flat at the beginning and end of the row, because in the middle of a pattern sometimes you'll have a double decrease, like right here, but at the beginning and end of the row you don't have the double decrease because it's adjusted for centering the pattern and you don't have that second yarn over. So you don't want to put that necessarily right up to the edge. Here it was okay because there was nothing but plain knits in the first 2 stitches, so it was okay for me to move this box almost to the beginning. Here it wouldn't have worked because that first part, that first half a motif doesn't match what's happening on the full motif on the side. So at any rate, you can do that yourself if you want to, and then move your markers, say here, for this whole section, so you don't have to move them again until you get up here. And look at your lace patterns, other lace patterns you're knitting, if you see something like this, and you might want to make some adjustments yourself, because there's no reason that a specific 14 stitches have to be the repeat. It just has to be 14 stitches. That doesn't include any things that are different for the beginning and end of the row if it's knit flat. If it's knit round, there's no beginning and end of the row centering to worry about, because in the round you would just do this around and around and around and around and around. You wouldn't have that part. Okay, so that's the chart options for the designer and as for you as a knitter. So here's a close-up that I just want to show you, and I've got some yarn and needles here. I'd like to call this my Clashing Colors video lesson today. So what I did was just made a little swatch here where I have a decrease near the line and a yarn over, and I'm going to just show you what happens when you get up to that. So I'm not actually swatching this chart. This is just a swatch of stockinette stitch with a space where I'm going to do this. So right here I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches, not counting my border. In my swatch I've got 5 stitches, then the marker. And so let's say my last stitch in the sections that knit 2 together, and then after the marker is a yarn over. What's going to happen is I'm going to be taking away a stitch here, but I still want to have 5 here because the number of squares doesn't change. So it's not 5 in this chart, but for my sample it is. So what's going to happen is I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, then I'm going to decrease, and the decrease is going to take the stitch before the marker and the stitch after the marker. So I'll still have 5 stitches there because I'm going to make the decrease and then move the marker over to there. And then, well, how come this section's not losing a stitch? Because right after the marker I'm making a yarn over, and that adds the stitch. So right here I'm going to go right up to the marker, 4, then I need 2 stitches to make the decrease. So this is a removable marker, so I could unpin it. Usually what I do is just take it off, make the decrease, and put it back on. Then I've got yarn over, knit, knit, whatever is left on the chart to do after that. So see here I've got still my border of garter stitch, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I added the stitch I took away there. Okay, so what about this? This is a different one. The decrease is after the marker, and it happens to be a double decrease, but any decrease that's after the marker will work in a similar way. This is a double decrease. We're getting rid of 2 stitches at once because we're adding 2, but we're adding 1 on each side of the marker. So we're going to work all the way up to the marker, and then we're going to do a yarn over. But whoops, wait, if we do that, when we get to the other side, we're going to have to use these 3 stitches for the decrease. But if you look at the chart, the symbol kind of gives you a clue. It's pointing there, there, and there. So it's these 3 stitches that we want to use for the decrease. So we want to do the yarn over before that last stitch. So we're going to do that yarn over, then we're going to move the marker so that it's right after the yarn over. Okay, and now I'm going to do that decrease, which in this case is slip 1, knit 2 together, pass the slip stitch over, and then I'm going to continue across. So when I look at my finished row here, I'll show you what happened. At this part where we had the decrease first, then the marker, when we're finished with working that row, we have the decrease. So you can see here's 2 stitches that are joined into 1, then the marker, then the yarn over. So this shows you where the stitches are going to be after you finish working it. Decrease, marker, yarn over. Then up here, we've got yarn over, marker, decrease, and then you would put another yarn over there for the pattern, which I forgot. And I have another video of what to do if you forget a yarn over, so you can look that up if you need to. But here you can see the yarn over is before the marker, then the decrease. So the marker will be where it is to match this row after you work those stitches. And it works both ways. Pretty much anytime you have a yarn over and a decrease that go with it, on the 2 sides of the line where the repeat is, you're going to have to move a marker. And if you look down here, this is just like the one we did where there's a double decrease and 2 yarn overs, only these 2 yarn overs are not right next to the decrease. They're away from it a little bit. But still I'm going to have to move the marker because this decrease here, for example, is going to take up these 3 stitches. So this stitch going to move there. The yarn, adding the yarn over adds an extra stitch, and everything will line up like it is here after you work it. So you'll have yarn over, stitch, marker, decrease, stitch, yarn over after you work it. before you work it, the marker is going to be over here somewhere. You're going to have to move it so that it comes there. So you'll put the marker in before you work the decrease. I hope that's helpful. You can swing back and watch the parts over again, the specific parts that you might find useful.